Good morning. It's Fred in Alaska. Um, Thanks for joining me. I have some updates I want to get to first. The the map and the website is up. Um, Subarctic Alaska Sasquatch, all one word.com. Interactive map of Alaska, and there's a bunch of markers on it. So you zoom in, you see the topographical, and you see the area of the encounter. Touch on the marker, it'll pull up the corresponding video that goes along with that area and the video I've shared here from that area. So check it out. Do your HTTPS, subarcticalaskasasquatch.com. Check it out. All feedback is greatly appreciated. It's a work in progress. The slight grammar issues or whatever there may be, or it's constantly going to be updated. So check it out, and please share your response here as far as your input and thoughts on it. Like I said, it's interactive. Once you get to the home page, it's all right there. Just scroll through. Special thanks to Dave, the tech guy. That's what he wants to be known as right now. No, I am not a tech guy. No, not. So thanks to Dave. Appreciate your hard work, buddy. And it looks great. It really looks great. It's better than what I was envisioning. So awesome job. Um, let's see. I have some more special thanks coming in another video. I'm waiting for some other background stuff. Um, let's see. Today I'm gonna share something with you that was shared with me not quite a week ago. Cheryl was part of a mushroom picking little group. She's retired, and her and two of her retired friends were up near the Alaska Speedway. Now that's just north of Willow, Alaska, just out the road here, due north. And so they were back in there, and now they're retired. They don't move fast. They're very nice. I talked to her personally, and she just the sweetest lady. Damn near gave them all a heart attack. So what ended up happening is where they were picking mushrooms, they were at a burnout spot from an old wildfire from a few years back. This happened roughly almost a year ago, and so as you're coming along the highway up Highway 1, you'll see the sign that says Alaska Speedway. So they pulled off the side of the road, and they searched the one side, nothing there. So they went up, turned around, and the pull out for the Alaska Speedway turned around, came back down a little bit, and there's four-wheeler trails on each side of the road. It's Alaska, we don't give a shit. So they come down and they park, and they're cutting along this hill, and this hill has got a pretty steep grade, but it's south facing. There's fresh burn, and they were looking for these morel mushrooms. Right now, everywhere through this particular spot, because I've been through that area, like this fallen tree right back here, there's a bunch of those, but they're burnouts, bigger, smaller, different size, and they're just like pickup sticks. They're stacked all over each other. You got tree stumps sticking up, root balls from the trees that tipped over from the fire. It's a mangled mess in through there. I mean, all these things are pretty much interconnected. So they took their time. They're retired. They didn't just come from NFL training camp and running those tires or whatever. So they were taking their time, and all the sticks in their trees, they vary in height off the ground the way they're laying. So it's a mess. But they were led to believe that there would be some good morel harvesting in there, and so them being retired, they're all for it. Hey, get out, get your mushrooms, I guess. So they took their time going back in there, and the birds were chirping. It was a beautiful day like this. No, not a care in the world. Just three retired ladies having a great time, laughing, enjoying each other's company. Um, they had been going along for a little while, and it was reaching about midday. And the grade on this hill is roughly damn near a 45-degree, with the pickup sticks in through and through, and the new growth coming up through. It's a jumbled mess. When I went through there, it was, I'm spry, and athletic, if you want to call it that. And it was a pain in the butt for me to do. So I can imagine what they were going through. I recorded footage from there to share when I went out there yesterday, but for whatever reason, I couldn't sync up my SD card or some shit with the GoPro. I got it figured out since, but something happened, corrupted. But anyway, so they get back in there, and at about midday, they had brought a thermos full of hot water to have some tea, and they were eating some of their crackers and sipping tea, just enjoying themselves, thoroughly. They ain't found a single mushroom, but they're enjoying themselves, and they were sitting on a big log that was sun bleached. It had been obviously burnt out, but it was sun bleached, and there wasn't a bunch of charred stuff to get them, even more dirty than they were, so they chose that to sit on. Now, as they're sitting there, they are, anytime any of them moves, the thing kind of jiggles a little bit, and as they're sitting there, she was like, well, who keeps moving? They kept feeling the whole pile of sticks moving, and they found it odd, because none of them were like bouncing up and down or nothing to make it do that. It was just every once in a while there'd be a little shift and a jiggle. They just figured it was their own movements or something down the way, because all these sticks are damn near interconnected, like a spider web. So as they're sitting there and they're enjoying their tea, they heard off behind a larger pile of sticks they couldn't really see through. There was gaps in between there, but it wasn't a good visual eyesight into that. There was also a root ball, and at the end of that root ball, she noticed some movement, but they were enjoying their tea, and she figured it was just the breeze that was going through. But she also noticed at the same time that all the birds stopped chirping. There was not a natural sound going on. It all went dead quiet. They were very her friends were unaware, but she noticed it, and she mentioned it. She goes, oh, there's no more bird sounds. The birds were just chirping away. So they thought nothing of it and continued. Now, a low, barely audible kind of, she said it sounded like an elephant seal kind of kind of sound. And they're trying to figure out if it was something to do with an engine at the raceway, because some people were running their rigs at the time. And they chalked it up to like an engine bogging down in the distance, whoa, 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 kind of thing, So, they went on about their way, just sitting there enjoying each other's company. Now, they're halfway up this hill going down, so they have the same distance down as they do up. And they came on this little shelf that turned into the side hill. And from where the shelf ends and starts to be mainly hill is where all these sticks are intertwined. And someone had come through with a chainsaw and cut most of them up on that shelf mid-height of the hill, just off the it would be the south side of the Alaska Highway 1, just to buck up for firewood, because there were stacks of it as they came in, she said. But it got to a point where they stopped, and it was just all this intermesh. So they had about a good 150 yards of distance between where they're sitting and where it's open area back to the highway. So as they're sitting there enjoying each other and trying to figure out the sound, because it was barely audible, the jiggling started more violently, like just, and they're thinking, oh shit, earthquake, so that they're looking around to make sure there ain't going to be any of the other trees falling on them. And as they're trying to assess whether to slowly make their way out of there, they weren't sure what was going on. They heard a loud grunt. And the grunt was, according to her, demonic. Very, she said it was a visceral feeling. Every panic button in their bodies just started going off. Red flags are going. And they assumed a bear, which is a fair assessment. Initially, not everything's a hairy man, just not. So they start talking to each other about, let's make our way out of here. Let's just make our way out of here. Something ain't right. So they got their stuff, and her two companions were a little older and a little less spry than she was, and she wasn't spry at all. So she was getting them going. Now all they had with them was a canister of bear spray, which works great. Close quarters with the bear, it shoots out this huge cloud, and the bear usually comes into it, gets a whiff of it, and the bear is gone. Usually, unless the bear likes Thai food, then you're getting eaten. And maybe he likes it spicy. Anyway, nothing beats a gun. So she pulled the pin on her bear spray, a little safety pin, and she kept her finger on top of the little safety lever. You got to pop up a safety lever to hit the fogger. So she had her finger on top of that, but she was nervous. She said she had a death grip on it because they heard that demonic sound, but simultaneously there was that whoa, 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 whoa sound going as well. It was very low, very hard to hear, but she said at one point you could almost feel it in the logs, kind of like the logs were jettisoning around, like the whoa, 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 kind of with it. So they get up, and her friends she's letting get ahead, get a jump start. So she gets about 20 feet from where they were. Remember, pickup sticks. They're going along. She hears a solid grunt behind her, and it sounded just like a brown bear grunt, just this kind of sound. So she turned around expecting to see a bear. So she's already got her finger underneath that little safety lever, ready to fog. And she said behind the tallest jumble, about 20 feet away, or a little further than 20 feet, because they had made it 20 feet, so it was about 30 feet away. She seen this thing stand up, and at first she couldn't wrap her mind around what she was seeing versus what she thought it was. It wasn't jiving in her mind, so she was kind of stuck staring at this thing, and it started swaying back and forth, and it put its hands up on the fallen trees. Now, when they were sitting in that spot, she guesstimated the way the trees fell from further up on the hill, that spot where it would be standing behind and looking over, she estimated that log was at least 10 feet off the ground. And so this thing had to have been taller than 10 feet, according to her guesstimate. Now, this is a rough guesstimate. She wasn't out there saying, stand still, let me measure you. None of that shit. So she immediately fogs. She bursts in the air with that bear spray. Now, only problem is she created a huge cloud of pepper spray in the air. Too far of a distance to really affect the hairy man, but close enough to, with wind driftage, they were getting particles of it back. So now they got this thing standing behind the logs over there that just grunted at her. She tried to spray it, didn't work so well, and now they're being affected by the pepper spray. Her friends had stopped and turned around at that grunt. They were like shell-shocked, frozen, like, what? She told them, get moving. She turns around and joins them. They're cruising along as fast as they can. Now, her friend in the middle, they came across this log, and this particular log had broken pieces of branches off of it. It looked like one of those sticks you'd see swing from in a jungle movie where the log had big spikes on it or whatever. It had that kind of look to it, but as she was stepping over it, she kind of tripped up, and one of the sticks stuck into her pant leg, and when she fell over, it twisted, and it didn't hurt her, but it caught her pants up. So she's ass over tea kettle, upside down on the ground. She wasn't hurt from the fall. It was more of like a ginger flip over, but her leg was up in the air, twisted up. Her pant leg was twisted up in this stick. So immediately she's trying to fight free. She's elder, and so Cheryl comes over and is helping her get the pant leg unstuck, because now they're borderline panic mode. She said this is where they almost three had a fucking heart attack, because directly behind them she heard the snort again, so she turned around with her bear spray, but there was nothing there. But off to her left-hand side, about 12 feet away, They didn't even hear it. They didn't even notice it. But this thing was so stealthy, it came up and it was standing behind a tree similar to this birch right here. That's the whole reason this birch tree is approximately 2.5 inches in diameter. It looks bigger in perspective, but if you see my hand up there, it's maybe 3 inches in diameter. So it was behind a tree similar to this, and they barely noticed it because it blended in seamlessly. It wasn't cloaking. It was just so it just blended in, is what she said. So when they turned and noticed it, because it let out like a nostril like snort, she said when they turned and looked, all three of them almost lost full use of their legs. Her friend, of course, was just freed from this obstacle she fell over, and she hasn't even got up off the ground yet. So the height of this thing, she said, was massive, but she didn't understand how it could move so stealthily. And it seemed like it projected its snort to directly behind him. Now, it could be the effect of, echoing off the hill right next to them. There could be variables, but she said it seemed like some kind of ventriloquism or something to have it sound like it was immediately behind him. So, as she's helping her friend up off the ground with one hand, she's got that bear spray, and now it's only about 12 feet away. 12 feet ain't shit. 12 feet away ain't shit. 12 feet away is that fallen stick right over here. That ain't far. Not for this kind of, not even close to far enough for this kind of situation. She hits it again, but this time it's within range. She clouds it real good. She said she almost emptied the whole can, and the thing just kind of wheeled back like this and shook its head, and said it lifted its hands, but its hands looked like they were permanently cupped. She said that's just what it looked like. She said it looked like mittens at first from all the hair on the back of the hands, and it was going like this, and then it spread its fingers, and she could see the 5 fingers on each hand, massive big hands, and it was wiping, and then just made this god awful like snot blowing out its face, hacking sound, and then let out this scream that ripped through all of them. Her friend that just got off the ground was right back on the ground, just in fright. They were all clutching their chests because they thought they were going to have an aneurysm or a heart attack or something. And it turned and just took off in the other direction, screaming, and just it plowed through a bunch of the trees like it was nothing, just made a huge racket. So she's standing there stuck, still holding the can, looking in the direction it ran off, and is looking around like, what just happened? What is going on here? Her friends had already started continuing on to get the hell out of Dodge, and she didn't even hear the ruckus they were making because they were motivated. She said I'm not trying to make light of it, but she giggled when she told me that she had never seen her friends move that quick unless they were going to bingo. So, they make it out to the clearing, and her friends were cheering her on. Yeah, you got it. And then the debate started. What the fuck was that? She said what they saw was a very, very similar description that I hear quite often. Really big in the jaw. No hair around from just above the brow. Kind of came up like this under the nose. So this whole area through here and the nose was without hair. And it was like a bearded look here, like a Steve Harvey type mustache across here, real thick. But the eyes were sunk back in the head, really defined brow. Native American looking in the face, but the flat nose kind of obscured that look. But she said it was the scariest shit they ever dealt with. She hasn't been back out to harvest mushrooms. She can barely bring herself to go out to her mailbox and check the mail. And, being retired, a lot of people, they, like for guys, a lot of dudes die within 5 years of retirement because they feel they don't have a use any longer. Something happens, and they just go right on down down into the drink, so to speak. So this instance happening has kind of ruined her and her two friends from their beloved outdoor activity. Um, it's really sad, honestly, because now the things they look forward to, they dread. They won't. Oh man, damn it! Every time I forget to bring the GoPro, Todd wants to peek over at me. Dang it. Anyway, so sorry. Something fuzzy moving out of the corner of my eye. I'm gonna check it out. Forgive me. It's just a fox. So, their whole social get outs, all their socializing has ceased, and to me, it's sad. Had they had previous knowledge of the hairy man, would they have still gone? Probably. Would it have made a difference in how things went after that? I don't know. These things are so traumatic when they happen. It's kind of hard to put, any kind of, I don't know. It's all speculation, you know. Um, but yeah, that real name's not Cheryl. Um, she's local, and they were part of a club that they no longer participate in because of what happened. Um, Argument could be made that it was being curious and checking them out. I don't know. I don't know. It's that's up in the air to me. If they're going through the trouble to make themselves aware, they're not being curious. To me, something curious is just something you notice off in the distance and then it disappears. Something that's within 12 feet of you, I don't think that's. I don't know. I don't know. It's kind of just another one of those things. Like, why? What's the intent here? Like my elder cousin who had one mimicking a baby to lure it out. The ones that made our little shack creek to lure us out. There's something above and beyond our understanding that's happening, and it's sad for a lot of people because it ruins them. It really does. But again, thanks for joining me. Check out the website, Interactive Map of Alaska. Dave outdid himself. Is freaking awesome, dude. Please check that out. Do your HTTPS or whatever. One word, subarcticalaskasasquatch.com. Check it out. Please leave comments. Let me know what you guys think. It'll be being improved and updated as we go. And thanks for joining me today in Alaska.